The recording confirmation. Perfect. So hi everyone and welcome to the bi-weekly call for the Kubeflow Model Registry Community Meeting Working Group. Today is March 18. This meeting is being recorded and this meeting is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Typically, these meetings the recording will be made available. We are running this bi-weekly call and the agenda that I shared in the chat is where everybody is free to add the topic for the conversation in the scope of the Model Registry working group. Just as a reminder, we've been running a few of these meetings. The main sort of like driving points here that we have are the Google Summer of Code involvement with the Kubeflow Model Registry. I will go through that very briefly. And also the keeping tabs on the Kubeflow 1.9 release checklist. So that is the two main items in the agenda. Is there anybody that wants to introduce themselves to the community? Feel free to do now, or otherwise, just as a reminder, and maybe just feel free to raise your hand if you're here for the Google Summer of Code. We have a project listed in the Kubeflow community, specifically dedicated to Model Registry. So this is a meeting where as well you can find the people that are involved with this project. And specifically for the Google Summer of Code, that is, you can find all the information for this on the website. You will find all the links that I will showing on the screen in the minutes of the meeting. Today, I just want to remind you that there is a Slack channel available, so you can find the link here for as well a good reminder of all the Kubeflow working group recurrent meetings. This is especially important because, as you can see, Kubeflow is this very vast toolkit for your MLOps on Kubernetes. So there are different proposals of Google Summer of Code. And so if you want to participate in any specific, try to give a proposal for any specific Google Summer of Code project, I strongly invite you not only to get involved with the Slack, with the specific working group, but as well maybe attend their bi-weekly meeting so that you can have at least an idea of what the working group is working on, what the components target is, and we are here to as well answer any question that you may have, or specifically the proposal number 10, enhancing Kubeflow Model Registry Python client for seamless MLOP import for alternative registries. So you can see some details here in the website that I've required. And this I really wanted to touch point on this reminder with all the pointers. Is there anybody that may have any specific question? Please feel free to raise your hand. Going once on this item, going twice. Okay, so I hope that this was a helpful reminder, maybe also for the one seeing the recording. In case also, this is a very personal, it's a suggestion that we are doing for the Kubeflow community, but also it's very dear and personal to me as well. It's an open source project, Kubeflow. So regardless of the Summer of Code, please feel free to get involved with the community and engage with us. Yeah, Ramesh.
So I probably want to just raise it up and say I see some new faces here. If they are any interest in the Model Registry project from Google Summer of Code itself, or anything else they are interested with the Model Registry. First of all, I want to welcome you to the Model Registry community meeting, and then I want to make probably ask a more direct question of whether either they want to contribute with the Model Registry or with the Jigsaw. I want to give them an opportunity to come and talk in terms of their interest. Shiva, Victor, Greta, don't feel shy. Don't feel shy. Feel free to talk.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, Shiva.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Ramesh. And I'm Shiva from India. So basically, I'm interested in the project number 7, which is automated to the document generate for the Kedevan training uh, training operator. So I I request you to give some any suggestions or any tips to get boost my percentage of selection in the GSOC for Cube.
Okay. Um, First of all, my suggestion would be there are a couple of on the GSOC participants channel. I pasted I put together a list of things, list of
Yeah,
requirements slash recommendations from Kubeflow perspective, community perspective.
yeah,
What you could be say that so I posted a bunch of you are seeing, yeah, that's the one, yeah, that's the second one, the yeah, the GSOC participants, and there is couple of pinned conversations you can look from me in terms of was going in detail of how one can write a proposal. I mean, what's the general the guidance on, where to go look for the how to write the proposal, how to reach out to mentors, how to communicate in this channel, and how you can more or less increase your visibility in the queue flow itself, right? Um, so we there are a little bit of guidelines in terms of and recommendations in terms of not just the proposal itself, right? We are
mhm,
looking for all-rounded candidates. We want you to come and not only support at the GSOC level, but even further going into your careers afterwards,
mhm,
right? Um, so we want to see that kind of an interest from you, and there are some guidelines, as I said. I would like you, just go through those. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us um,
sure.
on that particular project.
Mhm,
I would say there are mentors defined in there, right? There is a mentors label: Andre, Janu, Ishive, Yon, and Yuki. So I would say is in that GSOC channel itself. Um, See if you can frame your question, go through the project, what they are saying, go through the project, and if you don't understand something, ask a specific question about what their intention is, or if you need more information, or if you want them to review your proposal or something along those lines, right? Even before you submit to the Google Summer of Code website. So once you submit in the Google Summer of Code, we will take that one as, on April 2nd. That's when we will go back and see, hey, who submitted all the proposals and how has their interaction been so far, right? Not just for that project, but overall, were you participating in any conversations? Uh, so we kind of give priority and ranking based on that, because there are like, last counting, I saw about 160 folks who are interested in Kubeflow. So there's definitely a lot of folks who are interested in Kubeflow. So it is going to be a competitive selection. I'm not going to sugarcoat, but at the same time, we have defined a process what we will do in terms of selection. Is that clear, Shiva?
yeah, got it, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
Got it, sir. Thanks for the
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, there are a
Yeah,
few more people joined, and I welcome those guys to the Model Registry community meeting. Uh, Again, I'm gonna repeat one
Yeah,
shot. Hey,
Yeah,
hello. Hey,
yeah.
Victor. You.
Hello, I'm based in Tampa, Florida.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm here mainly just to. I'm actually participating in the on the CNCF side, the security assessment. So yeah, just come here to learn more about Kubeflow and go back and participate. Yeah, so I'm more interested in the security aspect of the project.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what
Uh,
aspect, Victor.
Security.
Oh, security aspect of the feature.
Yeah, yeah. So I know
Uh,
this is not about security. I'm just here to learn more
let's
about
put
the
that as a
cybersecurity.
parking. If you got time, let's put it as a parking item on the agenda there, Victor, if you don't mind. And I'll have either Matthew or Dheeraj talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that works
yeah,
for you?
but also more in general, Victor, one suggestion right away, definitely we will put it in the parking lot. One suggestion that I have for you is that reach out on the Kubeflow Slack in the general channel. So if you're interested in the security aspect, because that is where you have the most visibility if you want to join the Slack. If you're interested in the broader Kubeflow project, so sort of like the whole aspect of it, one suggestion that I really want to give to you right now is that if you go to the community page, you will find a weekly Kubeflow community call. So if you prefer a meeting, that is a good aspect where you can definitely more ask. And because we sort of like all the working groups, like this is the Model Registry working group, we all convey to the Kubeflow community call. So that is where you can sort of like have the two most reachability. So I strongly suggest your Slack channel, general topic, and the Kubeflow community call that happens weekly. But we can definitely try to sort of like answer any specific questions that we may know of or not later in the parking lot. Definitely.
So, were you maybe I'll ask Victor a clarifying question. Are you specifically looking for model registry security? That's what I thought, but or Kubeflow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. I mean, I'm here mostly just to listen and learn what this is about. Yeah, thank you for the suggestions.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, we'll definitely can go into what at least what our thought process is and what we are working towards in model registry, and if it is at Kubeflow level, yeah, definitely we can engage in other areas. Sure. Thank you. If anybody else wanna raise their hand and talk, Greta, Moise, who else I'm seeing here? One charge. Greta, go ahead. We can't hear you if you are speaking now. You are on mute now.
So just to make sure, Greta, we are not hearing you and you look like you're muted.
Yeah.
Just as a suggestion is like in the right now, Greta. Maybe your mic, yeah. So
Yeah.
just a suggestion for
Yeah.
Greta, then we go to Vanshavi. Just for everyone in the Google Meet, you have the three dots nearby the sort of like hang up button where you can sort of like set up your audio configuration. So typically what happens for me as well is like when I'm using in my laptop with the lid closed, it's still trying to use the internal microphone and that does really help. So my suggestion is that you go through the three dots that you find nearby the hang up button in Google Meet and you check that your audio setup is correct for Google Meet. We will come back to you, Greta, just in a second. Vanshavi, do you want to go next?
Hi, Matthew. Hi, Ramesh.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, actually, I'm recently joined Qpro, and it's been quite exciting the kind of projects you guys are working on.
Thank
And
you.
and I actually wanted to like ask how, as a beginner, like how I could get hands-on with Kubeflow, and what's the best way to get started. Like, actually, I could get in, actually get some good insights on how actually Kubeflow works as a beginner.
You want to take that, Matthew, or you want me to
Yeah,
go
I
first?
can. No, no, I
Okay.
can give you the sort of like the best pragmatical help answer that I can. One suggestion that I give to you is first of all get involved with the general channel in Slack for kind of like a beginner or like open-ended question. This is where sort of like everybody of us can ask a general question for Kubeflow if you're getting started and you're getting stuck. My suggestion, because also like you, I was starting with Kubeflow not so long ago. The typical tutorial that I follow is that if you go to the kubeflow.org website, in the getting started, there is, if I can find it again, just give me a second. So there was a getting started installing Kubeflow. Here is the page that I was looking for. So on this page, there are different ways that are described to install. So if you have like an hyperscaler cloud provided way, you will find that they're sort of like a blended version. They call it the distribution for Kubeflow. So that is typically easier sometimes to get started. Or otherwise, you can use what is called the Kubeflow raw manifest. This is what typically you can use on your own Kubernetes cluster. Say that you have a rancher or a minikube, something like that on your own premise. This is a way that you can sort of like follow the tutorial that they have here with the links provided. This is also I typically run my own Kubeflow for quick experimentation with the platform locally. So Ramesh, maybe you wanted to add something more.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's where I would start one charge is, kubeflow.org. If you have I don't know whether you worked with Kubernetes before, but it does require somewhat of a decent system, because it's memory hungry, right? It's and I would install Kubeflow in one of those, install Kubernetes first and then install Kubeflow on it. You can pick and choose some of the components you are working with. One maybe one suggestion is, if there is not an example here, I would go as something simple. Go to Hugging Face or somewhere, find a simple example where they have hello world kind of a model building and model serving, right? I would pick that up and bring that same Python code into Kubeflow side, uh, run it in Kubeflow notebooks and see how that works. Build a model there and use the K-serve in the Kubeflow. Try to deploy that, right? The model you build. So exactly the same example in Hugging Face, what they may be doing, but duplicating that in Kubeflow. You will learn a lot if you just go through that exercise from end to end, right? Take a small example. It doesn't need to be very complicated. It needs to be something like a hello world of the model AI, right? That's all you need. But maybe use the same things, use the components of the Kubeflow to do the same exercise here and see how everything is fits together in this platform. Why we do Kubeflow is we think that Kubeflow is the way to for the enterprises, right? When when you go to a big companies, when you work for Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, nobody is gonna deploying their applications on Hugging Face. They're going to be deploying on somewhere inside their cloud, right? Inside their organization.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, so basically recently I joined like Atlan as a backend intern. So I've been working a lot on Loft and like Argo workflows. So I think Kubeflow is pretty much similar to what we're actually doing.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So since you already have access to the platform, I would say make use of it.
Yeah,
learn learn there. And yeah, I mean, if you have specific questions, yeah, please come and ask us in the Kubeflow community.
So one more question is like Manifest not much compatible with Mac, I guess. I think I learned that.
I am not aware of that, but you could definitely raise a question in the manifest Slack or their working group. There is a working group for that. It should be
Okay.
working, in my opinion, but maybe.
Yeah, or
Okay.
in the general Kubeflow channel, because that is where you will get the attention from. I think also maybe others that are familiar with that. So I will assume that seems a very specific question. So that unfortunately we cannot answer here. But definitely maybe raise your question in the Slack general channel or in the manifesto channel or channel. Yeah.
Sure, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me take also for the purpose of the recording, we have a question submitted in chat. So I don't have time. The question is, I don't have time to present the project to the Google Summer of Code program, but I'm still interested in working on a project with you. Can I submit a proposal at a later date, or would it be better to start by solving some minor issues? So first of all, thank you for the question, and I'm really happy to see that you are willing to engage and open to engage beyond the Google Summer of Code program. My suggestion here would be that you don't need to submit any formal proposal later to engage with the Kubeflow community in general and with Model Registry more even. My suggestion here is that you can participate in these bi-weekly calls and see what we are working on for as well, see the any conversation that we are having on GitHub issues or pull requests or in the Slack channel. So you're definitely welcome to engage with the community without going through a formal proposal if it is not for the Google Summer of Code. So it's super easy to sort of like feel free to sort of like try it out. So the Model Registry, if it is specifically to Model Registry, what we've been doing more recently is that we built a demo that showcase some of the overall capabilities. For as well, we realized that the documentation has a website update. So please tune in, because hopefully in the next time we will see a dedicated section in the Kubeflow website to have a getting started tutorial with the Model Registry for experimentation, because we are planning to go with the Kubeflow 1.9 as an alpha version for Model Registry. So my suggestion here to get started is that maybe you can try to replicate the steps from the tutorial. If you see that there is anything that you're willing to contribute or any things that you notice that I think are meaningful to contribute to the community, you're more than welcome to submit a GitHub issue or a GitHub pull request. There is no formal way to engage with the Kubeflow community. So more than happy to have you engage in the project. I hope this answer your question, Greta. So in the case, please leave the message in the chat as well, and I will try to complete the question as needed. I think maybe Vaishnavi, you still have Vaishnav. Okay, great to hear, great that answer. Okay, also, so that was no more raised hand. I think that we went through the point for the Google Summer of Code reminder. Ramesh, do you think we can move on to the?
Yeah, I'm good from my side, unless anybody else have any questions on that. Okay, sounds good.
Feel free, and feel free to sort of like just think about it, and we can come back to that later. Kubeflow 1.9 readiness checklist. So typically here we follow up on what were the action item that we've been progressing on during the time in between the meetings. So let me pull up the tracker issue. So if I will remember, what we done here is that we've been working through going for some Istio quick start manifest. We will have to eventually come back to the so maybe a quick documentation on how to further, pointers to where further customize on that one. I think another action item was introduce the image container registry. So there has been some progress over there. And finally, as well as I was mentioning earlier, we've been contributing as also suggested a demo in general that you will find linked and the update website that is a pull request open here. An update as well is that in the release call, they specifically called out to customize 521 for the manifest check. So there is as well there an issue ready tracked and a proposal PR being worked on. So this is where sort of like I think where we are at. Maybe I will ask Dheeraj if he also want to speak about the readiness checklist, if there is any specific item or if any other additional points that maybe Dheeraj you may want to call out for.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's in the checklist or not, but we've included Istio manifests for. You guys can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dheeraj.
I've asked earlier. Okay. Yeah, so we have Istio manifests, but I'm wondering, based on the conversation we had in the last general Kubeflow meeting, there was some discussion about Argo CD or some other mechanism for Kubeflow distributions to allow users to install their products. I know there's some general help charts, so maybe we need to add that at some point. Leverage these Istio manifests we have, add them to like the general Kubeflow installation help charts at some point, so that a sample model registry gets deployed when users create their Kubeflow environments as well. So I'm wondering if that should be part of the 1.9 release plan or.
Okay, but maybe what the thing that I'm not understanding yet to understand if it goes here or should we track it separately is like my understanding is that there is a tracker issue. I can find it where there is like the manifest working group. So what they work on is to incorporate the manifest from this model registry repo into their own. So there is like a sync. For what more than that, specifically for 1.9, I'm not really sure, but I can try to find it. Yeah, Ramesh.
So last Qflow meeting, there was a conversation about introducing Helm charts material.
Yes.
Also, there was a conversation about Argo CD based installations. So I think that's what Dheeraj is mentioning. How we can take these manifests. Should that be part of 1.9 or should that be should
Post,
that, post after 1.9 kind of a thing. So I mean I don't know whether we can answer that question here, but I think we probably need to take it back to the general meeting and ask that.
Yeah, my understanding on that one, and please check me here, is that what I understand is that they are looking to build sort of like on top of the manifest repo and have like this distribution helm and sort of like standardized, because it seems like many distributions of Kubeflow are going that way. But my understanding was that that is not part of the Kubeflow 1.9 sort of like features. That was my understanding. But great point that you've raised, because what I can do, and this is what I wanted to look for. So action items, here we can put us both. So tomorrow we have the recording meeting. We can check. We can check with Qflow community if Helm if I can buy today Helm Argo CD is part of 1.9.
Yeah.
Or actually just is needed. Yeah. So sounds like a good action item that we can follow up doing tomorrow. Kubeflow community call for this point there. Okay, great. Okay, and then what else? So do you have any other item, Dheeraj, that you wanted to speak to?
No.
Okay. Dheeraj, you want to bring up the gRPC issue with the steel?
So We haven't included like a gateway configuration, Ramesh,
Okay.
in the Kubeflow manifest yet. So, the assumption is that notebooks are going to be part of the mesh, like we did in the demo that Matteo put together so far. So that was also kind of, sort of tangentially related to my question about how these manifests were going to be used in an STU distribution, whether there was like a general gateway config that we had to support or not. But yeah, I'm
So
leaving kind
maybe
of
lack of gateway. Do we? I mean, another requirement we kind of
yeah.
found out that Python, rebasing the Python over the REST API, right? Is that something we want to put that as a 1.9 requirement, or does it have to be?
Only if we have to have gateway supported.
Okay, then ignore my request there.
Any other items worth to be discussed? Otherwise, I can speak to some of the items just for the purpose of community to show where progress is being made.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I'll take it. So, just for more details, so what I think that now we require to sort of try to make attention for is I'll start with sort of like the easiest one first. So this pull request, just for the sake of people attending this community call, as I mentioned, is the pull request for the documentation that the Kubeflow 1.9 release team has suggested that we need to dedicate. If you go to the pull request, just for you to know, there is a demo environment that will show sort of like the things, how it will look like at the end. So that we started with an overview and getting started, so that it works through all the different action points. So like installing, what are the prerequisites, how you install it, and this is the things that I mainly kind of like a piggybacked on what I found for other components too, how to check it. Then an example of integration, in this case, integration from notebooks with the different steps required, and an example integration with add-ons, for instance, for creating an inference service resource for Kaiser for add-on, and then as a call to action for next step is the typical setup that we do for, we can get involved in working group and the website for as well. The alpha reminder here is repeated at the end for as well. It was added at the top as it was requested. So my suggestion here is that for these pull requests, what we do is that we keep tabs on the feedback that we receive from the Kubeflow community stakeholders and the community in general if there are comments. But otherwise, this is something that eventually I think that it takes a bit more time. So something to keep tabs on in order to get merged. Then as well, there was an introduction for the Docker token in the container registry use for the project so that we can publish that to Docker Hub. I synced with Andre, and they were kind to set up the token for us. So now there is just some maintenance ongoing to make sure that we can publish to Docker Hub. In this issue, there were discussed some other potential improvement, or at least what I feel are potential improvement for the build, especially for container, like doing it for different type of architectures and so on. But my suggestion here is that we keep it sort of like this improvement as a stretch goal post 1.9, because sort of like first step to me is to make sure that we have the deliverable ready for the Kubeflow 1.9 code freeze or feature freeze that is coming. Not it is not too far away because it's like half of April, but sort of like those kind of things are really approach fast. And so we will have just two bi-weekly meetings to go through for that. So there is that. In the more detail for the manifest team, they call it out, as I was saying, they call it out specifically that the requirement for Kubeflow 1.9 is going to be customized a specific version. So just prior to this meeting, I started a draft pull request that I'm currently action item on, and it will make sure that the GitHub action is using the customized version that is required. And I think that with that, we are progressing good for anything that sort of like we're sort of like covering all bases, not finalized, but at least we can go back tomorrow to the Kubeflow community meeting and we can say at least we started to find out on all the deliverables that were identified with the release team in order to make sure that we had the deliverables ready eventually for the code freeze. Anybody with comments, feedback, something more? Josh,
Yes.
I see.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
I have a couple questions, or at least maybe you guys can. So, I think it might be helpful to try to get a short list of use cases with names that we all identify with. So, for instance, in the demo, there were a couple of use cases demonstrated with notebooks. And one of them, I think, was pulling from Hugging Face. Another, or perhaps there was another one that, again, perhaps saving a version of a model of the artifacts of the model. And again, I want to get the terminology down in simple. But then there was another use case with Kserve, right? So, trying to articulate that use case, which I assume is being able to build an endpoint from the artifacts in the model registry using Kserve. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but I think that if we just had very short sentences of, 5 or 6 use cases, I think it'll help people to visualize or speak to the use cases more consistently.
Mm.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That was a good question. What we need is to document the schema we have currently in our API, so that we can describe the different types in the API at a high level and what they represent. We've tried to keep the type names, sort of faithful to what they represent, and we've also tried to follow kind of patterns, naming patterns we have seen in other popular registries like MLflow. So they have similar concepts of registered models, and models being the actual artifacts. Registered model is the model that's sort of being published, and versions of that model and so on. For inference services, again, we've tried to stay close to sort of the source of the resource. So we're still calling it inference services and so on and so forth. But yeah, we can document all the types in the schema, and then maybe we can have a conversation in the community around it to add anything or rename things if the community feels strongly about it. Yeah, Ramesh, you want to go next?
You're muted, Ramesh. You're muted.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Thank you. A clarifying question for Josh. Hey, Josh, were you thinking that it would be better to write the documentation that we are trying to develop? It's probably right now is just a installation and how to use it, right? Maybe are you suggesting that we should probably do it like a use case driven documentation there? Hey, how do take a how do you register a model from this is how you register a model from notebook, this is how you register a model from a data science pipelines, or this is how you deploy. So uh, have it part of the documentation. Is that what your suggestion is?
Yeah, so just the way that you articulate reuse model in a notebook, reuse model in a pipeline, reuse model, however we want to articulate. I'm not looking for the full documentation. I just want the big animal picture, the very short snippet that says, here are 5 or 6 use cases that we think are going to be very helpful. And then have a way that we and maybe they'll change over time, but we try to keep the same terminology. So we're starting to indoctrinate people, right, of why the model registry is good.
If I may go next, Josh, please. What I'm hearing from you is that sort of like maybe is that demo we sort of like was more sort of like pragmatic oriented. So we tried to sort of like address it. There was a comment that an earlier demo that we had when we initially started to present this project was sort of like a bit branded. So to try to make it more with using the Kubeflow to try to show it on the Kubeflow specific dashboard or more notebooks. What I'm hearing from you today is that maybe there is a case for having like a general high level use case description that doesn't necessarily show it on the screen, but more talks about what we think Model Registry is key for, what Model Registry is valuable for. So something like maybe with diagrams and just, flow charts that explain, in an MLOps, how you say call it, life cycle, you would have different stages, and then here, for you to see like training. So here can be like an experimentation that you're running with the notebooks. So see here what will be the key point of interaction with Model Registry. Well, after you store that, you want to use the Model Registry to index that one and not lose track of it. When it comes to deployment, then it will become, oh yeah, how do I select the model that I want to deploy and I keep track of what I deploy? Would this kind of like sort of like content, regardless if it is a video or a documentation, are you asking basically for a higher level, sort of like a more abstract and but showcasing with diagrams and flow charts? Is this kind of thing that you were thinking of that could help for what you were mentioning for, please?
I was thinking even simpler and less work than that.
Mm-hmm.
Just a list of 5 or 6 use cases in a few words that, for instance, in the video that we have,
mm-hmm.
the first use case there where we're working with notebooks, how would you articulate that in a sentence?
Yeah, I mean, I would just to do sort of like the run. Then of course we can take this task, but I would articulate something along the line of like, as a data scientist, I'm using notebooks to train and create machine learning models. I want something that helps me track of the model artifact that I produce. This is what Model Registry is for. Is this kind of sentence the one that you're looking for use cases?
Yeah. Yes. And then let me just give you another kind of, for instance, you use our term indexing. I think other people might use the term versioning. I don't know if those are
Yeah.
synonymous, but
Yeah. A more generic term that we have used internally is, you basically just want to share the model, right? You've written your notebooks, you've created the models, you want to share them, and you want to version them as you work on evolving the model, right? So yeah, we can use and think of more generic terminology in how we present the concepts. So basically, we correct me if I'm wrong, but we need something like a list of key concepts, saying these are the main concepts, types in model registry, registered model, registered version, and so on, and this is how they're related to each other. This is what they're used for, and these are some use cases that illustrate how you use these concepts and how you store metadata about models in the model registry.
yeah, exactly. And I guess the point that I'm trying to say is if you just try to write those out, you'll find out where those clunky places are when
Right.
you're trying to explain it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I wouldn't, and everybody thinks of things differently. I kind of think of it as, okay, how do we sell to the end user? And what's the snippet that we can give to the end user? And then we'll go back and work on the terminology after we've done these 5 or 6 snippets, and we say, okay, here's the 5 or 6 use cases, and look, we're using different terminology. How do we smooth that out so it doesn't confuse people, and we use one terminology here and a different terminology? We'll smooth that out, but let's first figure out the value.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, what I said there about sharing models, right? So sharing why, right? So we need to find that why, that user need that we are satisfying, right, using model registry, and articulate that so that users can identify with that problem that they're having and say, oh yeah, model registry is the solution that I need to solve this problem.
Yeah, and nobody likes this to fill out the description line or the title of what it is or the version number. And I mean, just think about it as you're using this, right? Oh, I now broke it and I have to go back 2 versions to figure out, and did I give it the right name, and can I find it? And that was 2 weeks ago, whatever. There's important things as we go down and do the use case demonstration, that those fields actually become very valuable, but
Right.
they're hard to explain the first time through. And maybe we don't get into that much detail the first couple times that we're indoctrinating people on these things, but over time they'll start to see that value.
Yeah, agreed.
So Josh, just to understand also better, is like the something like the user story with persona. Does it fit the requirement of sort of like snippet of phrases that matches for the scenario and the use case, or is like should we think there's like give more sort of like a dictionary kind of things? Sounds to me that sort of like having 5 or 6 use case story that we can write in a persona oriented use case, person-oriented user story. These would fit the ask that you are suggesting.
I'll leave it to whomever thinks this might be a good idea. I'll help promote it, right? But I think that when you're putting stuff up on LinkedIn or you're putting stuff into an update that you're doing in 5 minutes at a time, you have to give people just little chunks, right? And then they can go and read the document and see the bigger document and consume it. But really, you're just giving them enough to be motivated to look for more. So how do we do that, right? In these little snippets. And again, I don't want to take us down a path that you guys don't think is valuable. If you think this is valuable, great, let's do it and try to see if we can. If you don't think it's just a question, right?
No, I think it's super valuable. What I'm trying to understand is sort of like where to sort of like to steer the attention for. So what I'm hearing is that we need something that can sort of like speak to the broad sort of like an audience that may not understand exactly why would they need a model registry, and then just try to use a very kind of like broad terms, and try to drive them on the use cases that we envision for model registry, for Kubeflow in this case specifically, and then we can sort of like point them with this as a sort of like a TLDR version, and then of course they will be directed to check out the documentation, a demo, repository, something. This is what I'm hearing, and I think there is a lot of value in going that, because sort of like if you are bringing forward the value proposition for having a model registry, so that people can immediately understand what that stands for, and then if they are interested in that use case, they can always delve for more. So to me, it's really a lot of value, and thank you for mentioning that, because this is something that a lot of times is like you may not realize that it is needed.
Let me give you for instance, as I was watching the demo, I was trying to figure out what fields are actually being saved and in the model registry, right? I know it's the links to the fields, but it's like what artifacts are actually saved in there, and I know that's probably documented everywhere, but I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, I'm talking to a data scientist. Where's his pain point, right? With Kubeflow today, because he doesn't have a model registry. He's now made this new version. He's got 4 different versions and 3 different notebooks and, whatever, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's why we kind of need to marry the uh, use cases with key concepts, right? So that we can show the value proposition in the concepts, right? Why we've created these different types, and why, and the fields that they have, why do they have them, and so on. Right? Yeah, the logical model. That's right, Matteo.
Yeah,
That's the only thing that came out of. I really appreciated the video. I hope everybody else did too. And it helped me visualize what was going on. So, glad to help continue to promote this. Think about, as we do the release of 1.9, I mean, sometimes, like when I post on LinkedIn, we'll get as many as 10,000 people that will read a blog post, right? Or look at stuff that we put up. We want to make sure that there's something consumable and actionable, and we've kind of prepped them and got them going in that. And often you can't do a lot in a little space. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you've got to pick what you get across in a few sentences that's going to be active to move people along. And we'll get a couple shots like this over the next few months. And I want to make sure that we use them effectively to really promote the registry.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Josh.
Hello. I just have a like kind of like little bit idea about like what Josh said. It's like could we kind of like started with like the kind of like cycle of the like the well-known like ML ops, like because I think like it's like kind of like widely spread, and like people all have like consensus on that like concepts or terminology, so like we can like pinpoint some like phases like on the like the ML ops life cycle, that where like what time or like in what phases like a model registration will work and is very important, and like kind of like experiment part, or like deploy part, or like kind of like retraining part, like all these things, like kind of like because like I think it's like more easier like for the people to know like what phases they are, then like or what like kind of like detailed conditions they are, and like they're if they need the model registry or not. Yep.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Leo. Okay. Is there any item? I mean, does anybody else wants to add to these points or any additional points? This is your sort of like your last 1 minute chance because then we are coming on top of the hour. So if you want to add to these points or anything, but this is thanks again, Josh. It's a very important highlight. So maybe we will try to iterate a couple of times on the concept that you are seeing, so that maybe we can get also your thought about as we iterate or articulate more in concrete terms for these use cases, and I'll try to pin them down.
Yeah, great. And even if it's just a simple Google Doc that says, here's 5, right?
Yeah,
Here's 5, and we'll grow it from there. But yeah.
absolutely.
So on the proposal itself, there are a couple of use cases, Matthew, if we want to take
Mhm.
those and expand those. So I would do that. And again, since we are running out of time, maybe I like Dheeraj, if you want to give a little spiel on, what we are doing security-wise for Victor, in terms of at least what's our current vision is, so that he has something he can go out with. He's been waiting patiently.
Yeah, Victor, you said you're from
CNCF.
NCF, right? Yeah. So are you working on security for Kubeflow? There's a work group, I believe. Are you working on that, Victor?
Mute.
Yeah, there's a, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's a security assessment project for Truthful, and I'm participating in that. There's some formal meetings. I'm here just really to understand Truthful technology-wise. Actually, there was in a project called OpenSSF also under foundation.
So you're breaking up for me, Victor. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you are breaking.
Okay, is it better now? Is it better now?
Maybe a little bit shy.
Okay. Probably slower. Yeah, in the Open SSF, there's actually a particular project working on security for all artifact repositories, which could be actually interesting for this particular sub-project of Flow, for registry. At this point, mostly it's about software repositories like GitHub and software code repositories. But for model registry, there's some discussion, but there's not a lot of actual work yet. Yeah, as I said, I'm here really just, I'm satisfied just here to listen to what's going on. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, in general, a quick like one sentence description of the way we are approaching security is that we are kind of relying on Istio to do that, and that's in keeping with what all the other components in Kubeflow are doing as well. Kser, for example, uses Istio for security. So that's TLS, authentication, authorization, and so on, right? So we're going to take the same approach. We have created manifests already, simple manifests that you can start using as you sort of starting point templates, and customize them to fit your needs. But yeah, that's basically the approach so far. We don't have any like elaborate security configuration in the services. The services themselves are not configured with like certs and so on and so forth. As I said, we are kind of delegating that to Istio to do that. But yeah, in the future, there's a second phase where we want to add support for multiple tenants in a single registry instance, at which point we'll have to start adding support for JWT tokens or something, and user roles and groups and so on. So then the security considerations will start getting pushed more upstream into the model registry implementation. But right now we are kind of using that edge termination approach to security and authentication authorization. Does that give you?
Oh yeah, that's actually good to know. I know, believe it or not, there's most projects do not have a lot of security effort, and Qflow, the security sub project, actually has been doing quite a lot of good work job to secure the Qflow project overall. Yeah, but I didn't know that you basically still is such a main you can say design foundation, I guess, for Qflow security. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, the alternative was what some of the other Qflow components were doing in the past, where they were setting up like certs in the actual services, and using things like an auth proxy to do Kubernetes RBAC and stuff. But it's better to delegate that to an existing and more feature-rich framework like Istio2.
Yeah, and compared with the other projects that's being done, so security assessment it is a little different from a security audit per se. So maybe it's for kind of trying to figure out, from a design perspective, anything can be done. And so one thing that makes Qflow a little different from other projects being done, since you have security attack, is Qflow has so many involved. Okay, it's not just a right? Qflow have so many different storage components, different databases involved. Yeah, so it's there's quite a lot of components. So right now, that's why it's hard for people who get involved to understand what each component does and detailed workflow. That's why I'm here. And I said, I'm just to listen to you guys talking and understand what the component is about. So.
Yeah, we can use all the help we can get in that area too. So yeah, thanks for doing this for Qflow, and we're happy to have you collaborate on this with Model Registry.
All right. Thank you, Victor. So from my end, just also as a reminder for more general, the Qflow for security assessment and for any security aspect more broader to Qflow, I also strongly welcome to join you on the Qflow Slack, where specifically, you can find the leads for the several components and work group area, so that you have a broader reach for your interest in general for any components or add-on for Qflow and how that works. I think that is very important. Just also for you to know is like I think if you want as well, you can have the same question in the Qflow community call. That is where you can find every sort of like most of the leads for the working groups is a sort of like a sync point for all the different activities that are being carried out in Qflow. So that if you prefer a meeting, that is the one that I would strongly suggest you to engage with. So with that, Ramesh, I think that we touched on all the points. And okay, great. Thanks for the thumbs up. So thank you everyone for joining also today's bi-weekly call. Just as a reminder, tomorrow there is the Qflow community call that happens every week. And I will see you at the next one. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks.